Welcome back, Troglodytes, to the Trogly's Guitar Show. Today we have a beautiful 1976 Gibson Les Paul Standard, and the previous owner of this guitar swears it's haunted. Let's go over that story. If you think you've seen this guitar before, it's probably because you have. It's been trolling around on Reverb and eBay for the past month or so, and nobody really knew how to describe this guitar. I vaguely remember this being a buy it now or best offered listing, and then it ended up in another person's hands at an open auction. Now, I watched that auction because I just thought this Les Paul Standard has a really cool vibe to it. It's a 3-piece maple top, but this middle piece has this very interesting figuring to it. It kind of gives it an evil vibe, and the whole black plastics, they just looked excellent. But the seller was saying that this was one of the gold hardware Les Paul standards. I had never heard of that before this, but I guess there were a few gold hardware Les Paul standards made when they were reintroduced in the mid-70s. Now keep in mind, after 1960 when they discontinued the Les Paul, a Les Paul standard, the way that we think of it with humbuckers, really didn't exist in the normal lineup until around 75 or 76. Now yes, there were custom ordered deluxes with humbuckers out there, but as far as something called a standard in the lineup, that's like 75, 76. So I watched that auction and I ended up not bidding because the shipping cost was $100 and it got bid all the way up to $2,300. And that's about market value for a Les Paul standard from the 70s and 80s. They will normally sell between that $2,000 to $2,500 mark unless there's something extra special. Now flash forward about a week, I see this thing get listed on Reverb for $3,400 and $50 shipping. Now that's just kind of how it happens. People buy to make money off of guitars. I do the same thing. I can't judge. It feels dirty. That's why I try to make these reviews to get a little bit more out of the guitars, to pay it forward to the community in a way. But I was really kicking myself for not bidding on this guitar when I saw that guy's really nice photos. It really made this guitar look spectacular. However, accompanied with all those photos was the most bizarre story ever, and I swear this guy was just making it all up. He claimed that this was a custom ordered one-of-one guitar that the original owner custom ordered after seeing Clapton use Lucy live in concert. Now Lucy, if you don't know, is a 1957 gold top that used to have a Bigsby that was refinished in red. It's been owned by Rick Derringer! He's the one that decided to refinish it and get rid of the Bigsby, but he got it back, didn't love it, so he traded it for a Sunburst, and then I guess Eric bought Lucy, and then Eric gave Lucy to George Harrison, and then Harrison had it stolen, then he recovered it. It's kind of a famous guitar. I guess it's the one that was used to record was a factory ordered Brazilian rosewood fretboard, and it's all original, nothing has been replaced, in excellent condition. That is quite a tall story for this guitar, and I didn't really fully believe it. Brazilian rosewood has not been used on Gibson since around like 1968-ish, simply due to conservationist efforts. You couldn't really import new Brazilian rosewood in at that time. You just had to rely on leftover stock. The only models in the Norlin era that I'm aware of that has Brazilian rosewood is the Brazilian rosewood top Les Paul Customs and the gold crest. And apparently some of the early Strings and Things reissues also had them on the fretboard. Now, I'm not an expert at looking at wood and going, yup, that's Brazilian versus Indian or anything like that. While this one does have some really nice red streaks, I think it's just a really nice piece of Indian rosewood. Now, a collector friend of mine actually reached out to the seller of this guitar trying to see if he had actual proof and documentation behind that. And the seller was like, "No, I don't have any documentation, but I knew the guy who ordered this. He had just come back from war and he wanted one of these guitars. Oh, but it's already sold to this other dealer, but I'll let you know if he passes it up." Now, I'm not here to call anybody a liar, but I'm pretty sure that whole story is completely made up. And I'm guessing this guy was getting some heat from potential buyers calling him out on his nonsense, because this listing was ended, and then lo and behold, it comes back to eBay from the original auction seller. And in his listing, it says this was returned because the guy who bought it thought it needed a refret, and that the bridge was replaced. And that made me very upset, because that tells me that guy had buyer's remorse. People weren't buying his story, so he was upset and took it out on the seller. Now let me tell you, this guitar does not need a refret. You've got a little bit of fret wear, but it's definitely in the level crownable status. There's nothing majorly wrong with these frets, but a little bit more on that later. So I watched this auction because I was hopeful that I could get it and make this video and just kind of give some justice to that guy and tell the story of how somebody made up a ridiculous story about this guitar. Knowing that it went to $2,300 last time, I was interested to see what it would go to this time. So I ended up winning this guitar for $1,813 plus $100 shipping, and I was kind of happy with that price. I figured this guitar was about a $2,500 guitar simply because it looks awesome. It's very cool. Now, my collector friend was very interested in this guitar and he wanted to see more of it to see if it was something special that he should be purchasing. And the day I got this, I immediately looked at it and it's like, okay, this is a basket case Les Paul. And I was very upset because this is such a beautiful guitar, but anything that's ever been said about this guitar is a lie. Is this an original gold hardware Les Paul standard? No. All the gold pieces on this have been replaced. You have a Godot Tone Pros locking tailpiece and a locking bridge. The pickup covers have been replaced. The tuners, while being the original style, are Godot gold tuners in the Clusen style. And the strap buttons are gold Schallers. So that was a little bit of a shame finding out that this wasn't one of the original gold hardware standards. And how do I know that this wasn't one of those and these are just replaced parts? The best thing to do is look at the bridge studs. You can see it was originally chrome. So then I looked at the plastics and yep, sure enough, these are also replaced, including the switch tip and the poker chip. So this would have originally been a chrome hardware Les Paul standard with cream colored plastics. Now thankfully the knobs are still the original ones. You have the original pots in here. And the original T-tops are still in here. It's just new covers on them. So at that point I was like, okay, it's got replaced hardware, replaced plastics. No big deal because, well, you've got the original pickups, the original electronics, and there's been no major modifications that couldn't be undone. Now after paying $1,900, I was a little bit sad about that, but then I thought, okay, let's go ahead and sight the neck. Uh-oh. As if this wasn't bad enough already, there's a twist in the neck. Now, just because a guitar has a twist in the neck doesn't mean it's not playable. It just affects the value tremendously. Because if you wanted to fix it correctly, it's a very invasive process, usually, if you want to fix it correctly. Now there's a few patch fixes you can do, like leaving the strings on one side of the neck for an extended period of time, and sometimes refretting the guitar will also help. But here's what really put the nail in the coffin for this guitar. Your truss rod is also maxed out. So twisted neck, maxed out truss rod, everything pretty much replaced, this guitar was significantly not as described. Now, I spoke with the seller previously and I told him about the fraudulent return, and he was real appreciative of that information, and we were kind of on good buddy-buddy terms. So when I found out everything that was wrong with this guitar, I messaged him and said, "Man, you're gonna be sick of this guitar." And I let him know what was wrong with it. I gave him photo evidence of it. And this is when you can tell a good seller versus a terrible seller. He was instantly apologetic. He wanted to create a resolution that would be beneficial for both of us. And we were able to sort this out really quickly. And he is a fantastic seller. Definitely don't be scared to buy from this guy, because even if something does slip through the cracks, he is more than willing to help make it right. What I actually offered him, because I felt bad for him at this point, having to deal with 2 returns, to avoid having to ship it back to California, I told him, how about you just relist it on your eBay page? We'll list everything that's wrong with the guitar, and then I'll just send it on to the next buyer. That way there's no return postage, and it gets to somebody who knows all the issues. But I also told him what I would keep the guitar for, and at this point it's a basket case. This is a reseller's nightmare, because twisted neck maxed out truss rod guitars, they're very hard to sell online, but if you take this to a guitar show, most people will be like, yeah, it plays great. Now the seller, he was just done with this guitar at that point, so he ended up taking my buyout offer, but I tried to help him get the most out of it. Alright, so now that we have all of the issues of this guitar told and the stories also have been listened to, let's go ahead and see how it sounds. this guitar sounds, let's go ahead and review its condition. So despite everything that's technically wrong with this guitar, it's not in the worst shape in the world. Now the face of the headstock, you've got some string change wear and scratches, but for the most part, it's in decent shape. When you get it in the light just right, you can see it has vertical finish checking running up and down, and the headstock veneer right here is slightly peeled up due to a ding, but it maintains a fairly clean appearance. Now again, these tuners have been swapped out. You can kind of see evidence of other tuners here, like they had a slightly larger washer on them or something. Now this truss rod cover might be replaced, but it definitely looks old. But again, you've got a twist to the neck and the truss rod has been adjusted as far as it should go before needing reset. It appears you have the original nut on it. The frets do show some wear, and I'm guessing maybe the original guy said it needed a refret because he didn't realize there was a twist in the neck, or maybe he was just making stuff up in general. But it does not necessarily need refretted. It does play fine as is, but it could play better if it was refretted with the twist in mind. The body of the guitar is littered with light nicks and dings and finish checking pretty much all over. But again, it does maintain a fairly clean appearance. You don't have any cracks in the top or anything. It's just all finish checking. So somebody loved this guitar. Whether it was the war veteran who custom ordered this, or if it was just some Joe Schmo that just got this guitar and customized it to his liking. It's definitely one of the coolest looking Les Paul standards I've seen from this era. However, I think most of this is just due to the black plastics. I think that looks really cool and evil on this guitar instead of classy with cream. So again, your bridge and tailpiece are not original and they are of the locking variety, so you have to have a small Allen key to get these off. But they don't look out of place. They look like they've been on here a while or were at least aged to look and match with the rest of the guitar. And you still have the original pickups, just with different covers on them. Basically, the only plastics that are original on this guitar are the knobs, and I almost feel that maybe these knobs could be changed to a darker one to complete the whole black plastic look. Back of the headstock, our serial number is 00234952. 00 as the prefix means 1976 in this case, since it is a decal serial number. And you can see around the tuners where the original tuners were just a little bit bigger, so you can kind of see like a shadow around them. You've got some wear and tear up along the top of the headstock. This one doesn't have any neck repairs, so that's good. If it had a neck repair, it'd just be a complete basket case, and it would probably only be worth as much as a studio at that point. But you have a very nice slim 60s neck profile with a 3-piece flamed neck. You don't see flame in Les Paul standard necks in this era all that often. Now as far as condition goes, there is a very small area right here on the side of the neck you'll see while playing where the finish has been worn off. But other than that, the neck's finish is very clean. The back of the guitar isn't completely littered with scratches, nicks, and dings, but there definitely is some wear and tear. I mean, this could be in a lot worse condition than it is. I'm guessing this was somebody's light gigger and it was left in like a car for a long period of time, and that's how the neck developed the twist. But it's in pretty good shape, and again, you have your original pots in here. I'm not going to say the wiring's original, but the pots definitely are. Take a look at the side of the guitar. Again, this is a pancake body. You've got a slight separation right here. From like right here and over, that's just a finish checking line. It's really only separated in like this area. And that's just a very slight separation. The rest of the guitar is fully intact. And that's a mahogany maple mahogany sandwiched body. So some light nicks and dings along the edges, but I mean the condition really isn't too bad for this guitar. It's just got some structural issues as well as some changed parts. Now we'll look under Blacklight. Here we can see the knobs are definitely original and the finish is also original. You've just got some light nicks and dings on the top for this one. Sides are also looking good here. You just got some nicks and dings, but we'll take a look at this slight separation line right here. You can see it's definitely not too bad. If this guitar was a lousy player and I thought it was gonna fall apart on you, I would have sent it back. But I kept it because it is a pretty decent player, all things considered. Back of the guitar is also in good shape. Back of the neck's finish is in good condition as well, except for once again that little area right there. No breaks, cracks, or repairs to the headstock. So it definitely passes the Blacklight test. This guitar does retain what appears to be its original case. It's definitely error correct, if not the original. You've got one latch that's missing its loop, but you still have the other three, as well as a back clasp. The handle's also intact, and you've just got average wear and tear to the case. It looks like maybe there were some stickers on it at one point in time. The interior is a magenta color. It's slightly purple, slightly pink. It's like that perfect Barney color. I've never been a huge fan of these cases because they only have one neck rest and they're not the most plush in the world, at least after they've been aged for 30 to 40 years. And you can see right there where the compartment lid has kind of come unattached to the wood, but the felt part still keeps it together. So as far as a case goes, it does its job. If you think you might be interested in being the next owner of this haunted Les Paul Standard, feel free to contact me on my Facebook page, facebook.com/Troglys, Troglys. Thank you, Troglodytes, for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.